everyone, and welcome to Get Celebritized, where we help you earn more, live more, and give back more. But today is a very special segment. Today I'm bringing on three amazing men who are TEDx speakers, and they don't do like what you think TEDx speakers do. They're not normally just in the business of motivational and coaches. My first guest right off the bat is Bob Bianchi. He is a legal partner of the Bianchi Law Firm. I've got this. He's a national legal analyst for all the major news networks. He has his own podcast radio show called Nothing But the Truth. He's full-time leads a team of former prosecutors specializing in criminal defense and domestic violence. What does this have to do with getting on a TEDx stage? Let's find out. Bob, come on up. Do you like to be called Bob or Robert?
Bob is fine. Thank you.
Wonderful, Bob. Well, thank you for being here. You know how much I love the TEDx stage. TEDx's mantra is all about sharing ideas. And there's so many great ideas out there. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how TEDx is a part of your legacy here.
TEDx is part of a long tradition in my family of service to other people. So when I grew up, my father, who's 91 years old, is still a practicing attorney. He would always talk about the idea that being a trial lawyer, no matter what side you're on, you always get the opportunity to make somebody breathe easier and make their life a little better, even outside the context of what it is that you're doing. So this was always kind of in the back of my mind, which ultimately led to, when I was very young, in my teenage years, being an emergency medical technician, an EMT in a very active area in northern New Jersey. And then ultimately becoming a prosecutor after I got out of law school and in the homicide squad of all things. So death was something that was always around me. My mother had an out-of-life death experience as a young person. I was very sick as a child, so I was in her company a lot, more than the average child is. And so I was always looking for a bigger picture. So when I became ultimately appointed by the governor to be the head county prosecutor in charge of 44 law enforcement agencies and the chief law enforcement officer of my county, the first unit I actually created was a community affairs unit, an outreach unit, because I thought that there was so much more texture to the opportunity and platform I was being given as the chief law enforcement officer that we could go out and reach into the community and make people's lives better. So it's from that kind of background that my TEDx, from the beginning, I've always been into this space. I've always been writing poetry. I've always been reading coaches and self-help books, and I'm very fascinated about the intricacies of humanity and life itself. And I learned a lot in that experience as an emergency medical technician and seeing people die that formed a lot of my vision in the future. And TEDx was a natural extension when they asked me, would you be willing to come in and talk about a law firm that has an inspirational blog, a law firm that's trained by Dr. Brene Brown in counseling, a law firm that goes out and does all these community affair events. What's up about that? And that's how I wound up getting into the TEDx space.
Oh my gosh, where do we start to unpack all that? I wish I had the whole show for you for this because it's so good and juicy. I come from that type of background. My biological dad was an attorney, and then he was murdered. And that was when I was 15. And then I married into my husband's brother was a prosecutor, and his dad was a circuit court judge. So, I'm surrounded by all of that, which is, I always thought it'd be a great platform for ideas to share on the TEDx, because you all see so much. And there's a reason why behind every one of you that do this type of work, that's not just, let's go to school and let's be a lawyer. There's more to it. And you're proving that, the reasons why you are in the industry you're in, which I think is so great. So my audience really loves to know, like, the how-to. You do your own radio show, and you're also a legal analyst for national news like Fox and CNN and all those places. Talk to us a little bit in the short time that we have, how you connected those dots, and then we'll talk specifically about your TEDx presentation, which isn't on the topic people are going to think it's going to be on. Just wait.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Well, let's just back up a little bit and say that one of the things that I used to tell my staff when we were in the prosecutor's office is that you are on the front row of human nature. you're given an opportunity to look into the lives of people, whether you like it or not. When somebody is murdered, you are in their phones, in their computers, you're getting a social history, family. There's so much texture that goes beyond the legal case itself. Don't lose out on squeezing as much information as you can, or as much as you can about being in the front row of this human nature experience that we're dealing with. So if you're doing anything by nuts and bolts, I mean, I knew lawyers that could present a case and they got it out, but they didn't have it in their heart. They weren't seeing the bigger dynamic that's going on here. So when I was in that position, shockingly, to be honest with you, you're going to find this odd, I was really not looking forward to the media pieces of what the job had, because I was the head of the agency. So I knew I was going to be in front of cameras. And sure enough, despite I tried to avoid it as much as possible, it was an impossibility. I mean, literally, you would have throngs of cameras coming at a press conference or whatever. So I started to become acclimated to the on the spot, heat on you scenario when somebody's like wanting to know, is the community in danger? There's a murderer loose, or whatever the case may be that we were talking about. So I started to become a
You're
little.
the one the press talk to during that? Like when that happens in your community? You're in New Jersey, right?
Yeah. It's
so when that's happening, they put you on camera. You're one of those that come out on camera talking about what's happening?
Well, I was the lead of the agency. I was the chief law enforcement officer of the county. So I was the person who, they would be calling and reaching out to. Yeah. So I the lawyering piece I got, the trial piece I knew, how to win cases I knew, but dealing with the media is a special talent that I started to learn, and I wound up becoming comfortable. And so when I left the office, to get to the answer to your question, there were a lot in the media world that knew me already. So then when they had legal questions, and they wanted to know the practical nuts and bolts and real answers to things, they would call me and say, Bob, what do you think about this? And hey, would you go on camera? And that's what started me going on camera. And then ultimately, I got called by some of the biggies like Fox and CNN and MSNBC. And what you find is once you, if you're delivering, and I found this really interesting, I don't give biased opinion. I give legal opinion, and everyone turns everything into politics. But what the producers liked about me was that regardless if I was on Fox or I walked across the street to MSNBC or I went uptown to CNN, I gave the same legal opinion because the law is the law. It's not political. And so the producers like the fact that, and I know your audience is interested in this, that you know the subject matter, that you're communicative with them, that you show up on time, that you're reliable, and that you have a level of being able to speak in sound bites where you can communicate complex information of an expert nature to an ordinary person who's not an expert, and it makes sense to them. And then once you get in that game, you start getting called left and right. In fact, when I'm done with you, I got 2 more to go.
But this will be the best one.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Oh, I love what you're saying. That will resonate so much with my viewers that are entrepreneurs and business owners. Some are looking for that next best break or to level up to the next position of their career. And so many want to get on a TEDx stage or be the face of their industry. And you've done that. So I'm going to ask you this question, but I'm seeing that you do what you love. You're good at doing what you love. And then the doors started opening as you went through some of those doors in the community that opened up more doors. But let me ask you this flat out. What is the best advice you can give some entrepreneurs about how to get to that next level if they're looking for some celebrity status in their industry?
Yeah, luck favors the prepared. So, you have to make the breaks, and it can be difficult, and I understand this. It's all about relationships. Yeah. Relationships are the key. And one of the best ways that I'm seeing people make connections is the hard part is finding out who are the producers in the area, who are the bookers. All right. So first you have to understand how the system works. So you want to talk to a booker, not necessarily a producer. Now, sometimes these shows will call things differently, but the booking people are the ones who are booking the guests. And now you have an ability to do things that I didn't have when I first started, which is direct messaging. So if you can find out who the people are, then you want to become a subject matter expert, but deliver value to that person first, rather than just bombing in and saying, hey, can you put me on TV? Obviously have your social media squared away so that when they see it, if you get eyeballs on what it is and you finally get somebody, you're going to have only one opportunity to make a first impression, right? It's some basic things. And that's when, and you want to do follow-up. Don't be bashful. These people are looking for talent, but there's a lot of people out there that are vying for that attention. You got to be the person that's out front and continually has a plan. Have your paper, have whatever you have your contacts, have their number, have their email. Don't bother them, but also don't let them off the hook by not responding to you.
It is all about the audience. And you made a great point because, I work in the industry of news and media, and they don't care what you know until they know how much you can give to their audience, because the bottom line for any newscaster, any television is money, is their sponsors, is being able to deliver to their audience. And if you come to them with being educated, you've watched their show, you know who the anchors are that talk about your subject matter, and you can let them know you're an expert in that industry. Should they need you, this is what you talk about, and you also can give compliments on a past article they've done or past interview they've done. So you're an educated fan, an educated person saying, here, I'd like to throw my hat in the ring for.
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing I think is really important here. And this was a mistake I made. So be disabused for the audience out there of this. I hate to say this, but a producer once said it to me. They're like, Bob, we love you because you're passionate, you're entertaining, you say things in a funny way sometimes or whatever. And there was somebody on that was very low level background in terms of skill set. And it was clear that I kind of was offended by that, because as a trial lawyer, I take it really seriously. And it was clear the lawyer that I was arguing against had no real background. And honestly, in my opinion, had no business being on TV with millions of people watching them. And the producer said to me afterwards, and this is really true, folks, so listen to this. This is wisdom here. He said, Bob, your abilities, or one's abilities and skills and background, are secondary to the entertainment value. It's about, and that kind of gets to the point you were just making. Do you resonate with our audience? That may be a bitter pill to swallow, but the fact is, it's the truth.
It really is. It's all about that edutainment, I like to call it. You're educating, but you're entertaining. Got to have that it factor. So you're right. You can't compare apples to apples, and whether you know more or not, it's that it factor. Any of us in the entertainment business know there's a lot of people out there that are household names that may not be the most talented, but they were the ones that had that it factor and made it happen, and they're entertaining to watch. Right. So we've got to get to your TEDx now, as we have a few more minutes. Bob, you're amazing. Your TEDx now. Tell us, it's not about what, your industry, like you think, you're going to come on and talk about law and criminal justice, but your topic, tell us about your topic and what you're hoping, or how you're hoping to change the world with your TEDx topic.
I think based on my mother's experience and the empathic, spiritual aspects of her life, and my dad as well, saw something much bigger than the nuts and bolts of doing a job. And my TEDx talk was called Deathbed Confessions of an EMT and Homicide Prosecutor, How to Live a Fulfilled Life. And this really comes from my... Yeah, well,
that's good. That's going to make people want to watch.
Yeah, and what it essentially is like, I'm just going to give you an anecdote. When I was 17, when I started being an EMT, we would sometimes do transports of people with long-term catastrophic illness, whether it be cancer, or they were going for chemo treatments or dialysis. So when you're in the back of that ambulance and you're transporting somebody from their home to a facility, from the facility back to their home, there's an intimate relationship. If you're a human being, at least there should be, where you get to know them. And I did this in high school, and then I would come back from college and come back from law school, and I would continue to do it on my breaks. And what struck me was some individuals who were so resilient in the face of such catastrophic illness. When we would get the ticket at the time, they used to give you a ticket, and Mary Shaw is one of my influencers in my TED Talk. And I would love getting her tickets. She'd always be full of energy. And even though she was sick, she was just a great person to be around. And yet there were others who were not that way. And I would listen to people, and this was so sad to me, most of them talk about how their life had no meaning, how they were afraid, how they wished they had done this, that, or the other. And I remember very palpably as a 17-year-old boy saying to myself, my God, I don't someday want to be a 60, 70, 80, 90-year-old man with a then 17-year-old EMT saying, my life had no meaning, it had no value, I wish I had leaned in, I wish I wasn't afraid. So from that young, as my mother's spirituality was like passing through my life's experiences, this is why, as a homicide prosecutor and EMT, I started coming up with the idea of the deathbed confession, which is a reference to law. There are things. Why does the law allow a deathbed confession? They allow that to be admissible as an exception to hearsay for any of you quirky legal people out there. Because,
okay.
yeah, because it's understood that people, when they're on their deathbed, typically don't lie when it's the last thing that they're going to be saying while they're alive. So my question rhetorically in a TEDx speech is, what is your deathbed confession? And like a lawyer, a good trial lawyer prepares their trial with the summation in mind first. In other words, what do I want to be able to say at the end of my trial, at the end of my case? And then I back my way into building the evidence and the witnesses and the things that I'll need in order to be able to say that in my summation. A deathbed confession is not much different than a summation. If you could think about what you want to say brings value to your life, what will make your life meaningful, what will you be able to say that will not be like when I was 17-year-old saying, I was afraid, I was scared, people told me I couldn't do it, the voices in my head that said, don't, stop, you're not good enough, which I've had many times in my career. But each time that has happened, I've said, dang it, I am thinking of my deathbed confession, and I refuse to be a person that says, I wish I had tried. And if I lose, right on that wall there that you can't see is The Man in the Arena by Teddy Roosevelt. At least I dared. And if I fail, I failed daring greatly. And that is what I want my deathbed confession to be.
Oh my gosh, Bob, you have no idea what a perfect fit you are for my show, because at the end of every interview that I do, I ask this question I'm going to ask you. And I ask it because, I'm a cancer survivor. I almost didn't make it to 40. And when you go through something like that, you think about how people will remember you. And I love that your TEDx, and this is what TEDx is all about, it's having a different way of explaining a new idea on something that isn't really new. So dying is not new, but these deathbed confessions is a new way of thinking about how you're going to live. Put that at the top and then work your way backwards to today to make that happen. I mean, I just love TEDx. I love that you're doing this, because where I've lived my space since my near-death experience is living your legacy on purpose, which is very similar to knowing what your deathbed confession would be. So I'm going to ask you this as we're waiting for our next guest to come on in, which you know him personally. What, Bob, now, since you've done EMT, you've experienced such amazing things, life and death in the criminal law industry, on national television, your own radio show, you are giving back, you're helping nurture other lives. You're really living this wonderful, like your topic is mindset and happiness in the law industry, which most people think that doesn't go together. So I'm going to ask you this. You're living this. What do you want your legacy to be? And I say that with a caveat. You are living your legacy on purpose. It is already very well known to us, because that's what your TEDx is all about, that deathbed confession. So let me ask you, how do you want to be remembered? What do you know your legacy is going to be when you do take your last breath?
That's a beautiful question, and that's really what it's all about. I want my legacy to be that I made a difference in the lives of other people. Like my father said, that I allowed people to breathe easier. And there are so many things that I just had a young lady who was 10 years old when her mother was murdered in front of her. And she just recently connected with me, and she said, Bob, you're one of the influencers of my life. When you said this to me, and I don't even really remember, but when she said it, it sounded like me. And my legacy, it lives through those people. It doesn't make a difference if they say my name or it's in lights. What I want to have my last breath say is that the rippling effect of what I did by treating people fairly, by being strong when others were weak, by making sure that, yeah, you're right. A lot of people say, what's a lawyer doing giving these kind of lectures and joyful journey practices that I've given around the country? Well, 10 years ago, people thought I was insane. Now, people see that you're on the cutting edge of something. But I would just say one last thing that my mother taught me about making gravy. When I say gravy, that's the Italian red stuff you put on pasta. Some people call it sauce. And we were having, just before she died, we were having this discussion about how she went from making gravy very simple and basic with basic ingredients, and then she became more of an expert. She was putting different spices and seasoning into things. And we had, my sister and myself were having an argument about how to make the best gravy. And my mother turned, never missing an opportunity to give a life lesson. This was her legacy, very similar to answer the question like mine would be. And she said, I learned in life, I've tried many different things, but simple is better, and simple will always be better. So through the example of how to even cook a gravy or a sauce, there's a message to be given that ripples through the lives of other people. Her message ripples through me. My message through TEDx hopefully ripples through other people as well. And it's okay if I don't get accolades. That is a fool's errand, in my opinion. Knowing I made a difference in the lives of other people is, take my life when that's complete.
That is so great. It reminds me of the old Fabergé commercial. Do you remember when you see that woman washing her hair and you tell one person and she tells two people? Before you know, you have all these ladies washing their hair because one told one person, another told another person. It's that ripple effect. And I always think of the Fabergé commercial. Gosh, my age is showing, but it's probably back in the 80s. And it was that word of mouth that if you tell one person, they tell one person, they tell two people. And you're doing that. That is your legacy. And I know we see David, he's getting ready to sit down and as he's getting mic'd up, I know he works with you while waiting for him to come up on the screen. Tell me, was TEDx worth it? And would you do another one?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you where TEDx was real. First of all, it was just a great honor to do it. And anytime I have an opportunity with my platform to be able to help people, I mean, I've had people tell me they've not committed suicide because of, like, when you David will be coming on here. When you come into our firm, you get Dr. Brene Brown's gifts of imperfection, right from the get-go, because it's about making people breathe easier outside the context of the law. They're going through a lot of collateral consequences. So one of the things that's really great about Dave is that he feels the same way I do. And that goes to the point I was trying to make before. Keep things simple. There's so much information out there. You can be overwhelmed by it. Keep it simple. What each day is moving you towards that deathbed confession, that's something that's positive, but also surround yourself by good, like-minded people to the best extent possible. Get away from the drama. Get away from, these things that suck the life out of you, because it will take the dream away. So I don't know if that answers your question, but listen, TEDx has been a great opportunity for me to be able to now have my book is going to be coming out. I've been writing for 15 years, the same book that I never got out. But why am I going to do it now? And I'm on chapter 3 because TEDx focused me on my lecture. And the next time they ask me to speak, which I hope they do, that'll be book 2, 3, and 4, if they'll have me.
Of course they'll have you. And you'll just make it happen. Because with TEDx, you just have to pick yourself and you can do that as many times as you want. What's the name of your book? And let's give it a shout out.
I think it's going to be Deathbed Confessions of an EMT and Prosecutor, How to Live a Fulfilled Life.
That's fabulous. And your partner is coming up now. And in case you're all listening to this on the podcast end of this, it's TEDxStGeorge.com, which is TEDxStGeorge.com. They've donned the TEDx stage. We're waiting for it to come out now on YouTube. And we're so excited. But I'm going to bring David on up with you for a moment.
Oh, hey.
There you go. We know. Oh, nope. Let me get you a better. There you go.
We shopped at the same T-shirt store before we came on.
Yeah, kind of. I just have the V-neck. We're all in the black shirt. You guys are incredible. You're all partners with the Bianchi law firm, and you both did a TEDx. So I know, David, this is going to be your time to shine. But David and Bob, do you want to say a word or two to each other before I put Bob down and focus on David for a moment?
I'll kick it off.
No, I would love to. Listen, first of all, I take a look back and reflect on my life, and I've been fortunate to be blessed by meeting certain people. And when I look back on it, there's only about 3 people that really changed my trajectory, like totally. And Bob Bianchi is one of them. I look back on him. We met in 2006 on the courthouse steps when we represented a common client. And that is when I met him. And at the time, he wasn't the Morris County prosecutor. He was in private practice with his father. I was in private practice with another firm. And we had the opportunity to meet. And little did I know that this man was going to become the head county prosecutor of my home county where I grew up in, to give me an opportunity to really cut my teeth and be a prosecutor. So I was blessed that day to meet. And it's just evidence that you never know who you're going to meet on any given day. So give it your all, because it could change your life.
Words well spoken. That is the truth. Was it love at first sight?
Let me tell you something. Dave represents a quality this is probably going to be a politically incorrect thing to say, but so be it. It's my truth. Dave was a guy that didn't have to be in the office till 9 o'clock and could leave at 4:30, but he was there at 7 o'clock. He was there at 6, 7, 8, 9. He got the attention of people through hard work and dedication. There was no task too small for him. If they said copy something as a lawyer, he copied it. If they said get me a cup of coffee, he went and got a cup of coffee. And because of that, he became very close with some of the higher level people in the office that were trying big cases, who eventually came to me and said, hey, I'd like him. I want him to be a second seat. I want him to help me out. So Dave rose above all of these people, and to some extent, some jealousies that occurred, because he was willing to work. He was very capable. He honed his skills with excellent trial lawyers. Like I said to you before, it's about making sure you keep the company of the right people. And Dave is astutely capable of doing that. And and as far as I'm concerned, that's why he's a great partner. Hands down, I trust him. I trust his loyalty. I trust him as a person. I trust his ethics. I trust his ability to gauge a situation. I trust his legal abilities. And look, we're two partners that are in this space now doing TEDx talks. There's not many lawyers that are out there that have that same mindset about how important this is. He's got that too. So we're a perfect pair with each other.
One more thing too, if I could, Bob, I've been working all day on the Careers in Law masterclass that we're putting together for students interested in careers in law. Literally, it's a holiday. I am the only one in the office. I'm walking down the hallways. Nobody is here because everybody is home. And what are we doing? We're doing this excellent interview with you. We're working on our masterclass for the students to give back. We can't wait to start that up in the spring.
Yeah, I'm going to have to cut out because I have a 2:30. But listen, that master class is something I started from back when I was prosecutor with the community affairs unit that I was telling you about. And we have taught hundreds and hundreds of students things that they'll never learn in school. They get a certificate of completion. It's a 5-week course. I'm so proud that so many of those kids today have Esquire after their name. So we're really excited to now give this same course globally, if you will, through the internet. So it's great.
Oh, thank you, Bob, so much for giving back and all you're doing. And giving back and doing TEDx. I hope everybody tunes into your radio show you all do together. Great title, Nothing But the Truth. That is fantastic. I'm sure they can find you. Where can they find your radio show? Is it a podcast or radio?
Yeah, it's a podcast and radio show. Okay. And we're going to be streaming. We're taking a little page off of you because we're going to start actually this weekend is going to be the first ever live stream. And we're just getting into it. But it is nothingbuthetruthpodcast.com, the one-stop shop. It's got all the videos of all the great guests that we've had. And we're going to continue to roll on. So nothingbuthetruthpodcast.com. And I want to be a lawyer.law for the registration page for the masterclass.
I love that. Well, Bob, I know you have to scoop, but we're going to start continue the conversation with David right now. Bob, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you on the TEDx stage, TEDxStGeorge.com.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Come back anytime.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, David, it's your turn, up and running. I'm going to get the website back up, and you all are in business together, but let me give you an introduction that you are also a TEDx speaker. Here you guys are working together, both owning the TEDx stage together, but separately on your own with your own sharing of ideas. And you talk about personal development that changed your life. You also are a legal powerhouse and the partner at the Bianchi Law Group, and of course, you have your radio show and podcast show, Nothing But the Truth. But tell us now what your idea is for the TEDx stage and how you're hoping your TEDx time on stage will change the world and make it better.
Oh, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to have you.
Look, I've been very fortunate because attorneys, there are almost 1.5 million attorneys across the country. And that's a lot of attorneys, right? And not everybody is a trial lawyer. It's very hard to get the trial experience as a young attorney. Most of the clients want confidence and experience. The larger firms have their more senior attorneys handling those cases. So where does a young attorney get experience? Well, I found, like you heard from Bob, the prosecutor's office is the place to really cut your teeth and get that experience. And that's where I started. I started there at the age of 26 years old. I got into the prosecutor's office and I brought with me my blue collar work ethic that you heard about a little bit from Bob. That's what my parents taught me. My parents, neither one of them went to college. My dad was in the auto business and got under cars, got greasy, pumping gas. And my mom grew up in the inner city in the projects. So when I came through and I went to Seton Hall University with a finance degree and then went to New York Law School and got my law degree, I was the first in the family to go to higher education. So when I got my opportunity to go to the prosecutor's office, it was something that I loved. From the very beginning, it was early mornings, it was late nights. I would stay after, I'd go in on the weekends. I did 24/7 on-duty rotations when law enforcement would need advice on the streets or on warrants and stuff. So whatever it was, I stayed late and I gave it my all because it was so exciting as a young individual. It was before I had a family. It was before I had kids, right? So I had all the time in the world to really cut my teeth and hone in on my skills. And then after I got some experience there, I went into the major crimes unit. And that's the unit that you work with the detectives and you go out to crime scenes. And for the most serious cases, murders, attempted murders, carjackings, kidnappings, I'm a young attorney going out to crime scenes with seasoned veteran detectives.
That's how you learn.
Going to the doors of judges, getting search warrants with my detectives and walking the crime scenes, looking at blood spatter on the ceilings and the walls. I went to the morgue with the forensic pathologists when they were doing the autopsies to identify the cause and manner of death. All of these experiences gave me the commitment and the experience that I needed in the prosecutor's office to be a trial attorney.
And I have to ask you, what a mouthful, all the things that you do. We can tell you have great work ethic. You go over and above and beyond. And now you have a family too. So we know that the balancing act of that now too will be a little bit different. But did you always know as a child that that is what you wanted to do, that you wanted to be in this criminal investigating type of whirlwind? And if so, when did you get that idea? Was it TV that influenced you or somebody you knew?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I didn't know until it was late in college when the job market was tight. When I was graduating Seton Hall University with a finance degree, it was hard to get a job. So at that point, I was very fortunate to have a mentor. His name was Ed Belinkis, and he was a former prosecutor. He was a criminal defense attorney. He took me under his wing. And that's one of the reasons we started the Careers in Law Workshop. Because there's not a lot of resources out there. It's one thing to go get a college degree. It's one thing to get a law degree. But you really need a mentor. So I was lucky to have a mentor to push me into this direction. But if I could continue a little bit, because the real aha, the TED Talk, is about what I learned from this trajectory of burnout. Because looking back on it, I was on a trajectory of overwhelm and burnout. In 2013, I left the prosecutor's office with Bob. As you've heard, we are law partners. We've been over 10 years in the private practice. And I had to add not only the grind of handling cases, but then I had to answer to clients who were facing their freedoms being taken away. I became a 24/7 lifeline for these clients, traveling from courthouse to courthouse all across the state of New Jersey. When I was a prosecutor, it was right down the street. I was in the same courthouse every single day. But now I had to travel courthouse to courthouse, phone calls late at night, early mornings, and then I added television to it. In 2015, I made my national debut on Fox News, Christmas Eve. I'll never forget it because that's how I started to get my reels and my connections, because I would say yes when everyone said no. When people wanted to go on holiday and it was a holiday or New Year's,
It doesn't surprise me, David.
They knew that I'd pick up the phone and say yes, right? So I started to do that. But guess what? Now it's courthouses and TV, early mornings, 4 o'clock sometimes. Then I'd do maybe 11 o'clock. I'd go 2 times a day sometimes amongst the court appearances and the clients that I had to handle.
And David, that was fine when you were single. How does it affect your life now that you're married? You said you have children now too?
Yeah. Well, I had the kids and the family, and I was still doing it. I was doing that, grinding hard all the way to COVID. And what happened with COVID was we're in a service industry. So when the courthouse is shut down and the quarantine orders restrict people from leaving their homes, the phone stopped ringing, literally. Wow. And Bob and I looked at each other and we were searching for answers because we needed the business and our clients to support our families and our lifestyles. So what did we do? We started learning, self-education at its greatest. Webinars, Zooms, challenges, masterclasses, masterminds. We started doing it all, learning about business and sales and marketing and key performance indicators and budgeting and all these great things with business. But what I learned, and I didn't expect this, that the reoccurring themes through all of that newfound education was mindset and positivity and self-growth. And literally another mentor that walked into my life, Ed Milet, is somebody that I just started listening to and reading his books and absorbing all of his podcasts. That led me to Tony Robbins and John Gordon and Brendan Burchard and all of these people. Yeah. That I completely eliminated the distractions of my life. Fantasy football, television, the news, sitting around, all of it had to go to the side. And I replaced it with this repetitive, positive consumption. And then I started working on my habits and my routines and getting a morning routine, waking up early and eating the frog.
Now, wait a minute. You wake up, well, you're already on the air by 4 a.m. How much earlier can you get up?
Yeah, but you know what? I wasn't as focused as I am now to make sure that I had my priorities in order. I planned my day like I'd never had before. I added gratitude and journaling and morning walks and exercise. So I really believe if you could win the morning with your habits and routines, and you could win the night with your habits and routines, you could win the day. And then start stacking the wins day after day after day. And then you start creating these habits that really take you to where you need to go and focus and purposeful intentions.
Dave, this is excellent advice. I love this stacking and this, we talk about it all the time as coaches about, starting off your day proactive, not reactive. And you were just a living example of great work ethic, but having this strategy, and you do it around a family, which I know a lot of my female viewers and listeners love to know that guys also can balance their family and their full-time career, and you're doing everything. I hope everybody will tune into your podcast. I know I will be a new fan. Nothing But the Truth. That is such a great title. I love it. But in our last 4 minutes that we have, tell us about your TEDx. What's the title? And give us what you're hoping people will take away from watching and listening to your TEDx presentation coming up from St. George. I'm going to put the website back up here, TEDxstgeorge.com.
Excellent. Yeah, it's following your inner counsel and reclaiming your time. Like I said, I was on that trajectory of burnout, and I needed it too to get the skills that I have and get the connections and the accolades and the reputation to now make a difference. Yeah, what I want now moving forward, and especially coming on the heels of the TEDx talk, is I want to be a role model, not only for my children, Madison and Mason, but I also want to be a role model for the younger lawyers out there that need their mentor, that need access to real crisp advice. Because for lawyers, it's a grind. I mean, it's a very, very difficult industry to get into because, number one, you have to counsel others. Literally, there are people that are going to rely on you, their lives, important issues that you have to resolve and give advice. So you can't learn it all in a book. It's very hard. In fact, when most law students come out of law school, they are nowhere near ready to really go into the prime time and handle these cases. So what Bob and I are doing is we're giving back. I want to give back in the form of the Careers in Law workshop. And that's going to be something that we're going to run indefinitely. We're going to build up the community for this, right? We just started up a LinkedIn group for future legal eagles growth community, right? And I want everyone to join. It's free. Join that particular group because we're going to be pumping content into that. We're going to be making appearances and we're going to be giving advice. So the goal now is to build up the community for young attorneys and give them advice, give them mentorship, give them a voice that they could hear, because I learned these things, but I only learned them after a long time of grinding it out. And if I look back now, I don't know where I would be if I continued on that trajectory. And unfortunately, it was something like COVID to teach me. But I think we all need a little change at some point to reflect. And that's what COVID did. It gave us the time to really pause, get stable and silent and look back. What could be changed? How could we change it? We started growing the business, which allowed me to work on the business and on me, and now be a role model to younger attorneys.
David, thank you so much for not only being here, but for you and Bob taking your business and your career out to the community, making a good influence on others, donning the TEDx stage to share your ideas that help the world be a better place and help your community. Who would think that two attorneys would have such a great podcast on nothing but the truth, but also both of you helping the next generation, but also helping with positive mindset and happiness in the career you're in. Thank you so much for this. I cannot wait for your guys' TEDx. And I am so your new fan for Nothing But the Truth podcast. I will see you over there for sure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much. And we are not done. We have somebody else coming on from the TEDx stage too. Thank you so much, David. And next up is another TEDx speaker I'm going to introduce. Trent Clark is our last speaker of today. He's on the St. George TEDx stage, and he talks about the pain exchange. He's the CEO of AIM, which is an athletic influencer marketing. He helps clients reach their peak performance. Welcome, Trent. Get up here.
Hey there. How are you doing?
I'm great, Trent. How are you?
I'm good. Roy. It's so nice to join you. I know it's been kind of a whirlwind, but I'm super glad I could get in. I got in late last night, so excited to be joining you today.
I love it. I love whirlwinds. I love things like this. And you all come from such a great platform. And I've done TEDx. I love the TEDx stage. And I love the mantra of them sharing of ideas and taking things from people that you're not creating or inventing something new all the time. It's like a new twist on thinking about something in a different way that can change lives. So Trent, let's get right into this. What do you do, and how is your TEDx hopefully going to change minds and change, not minds, but change the world for making it a better place?
Yeah. So first of all, longtime entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, worldwide speakers, global, speaking on leadership, mentorship, elite performance. Most people know me because I spent 13 years in professional baseball. I coached in 3 World Series.
Oh, wait a minute. How did you coach?
Yeah, coach for the Detroit Tigers, the Cleveland Indians, and the Los Angeles Angels.
Wow, congratulations.
A lot of fun times. And so one of those things, I took the TED stage to talk about the pain exchange, which is one of those real qualities I noticed in the top athletes in the world, which was, they had a different understanding of this pain exchange, which was they could really understand and grasp getting and acquiring the pain of discipline. They would take that on and say, hey, listen, this is going to be short-term pain. I'm going to feel it, but I'm okay with it. And I'm going to grind through it and take on the pain of discipline, which is very acute and short-term, as opposed to the experience of the pain of regret, which is I don't do what I'm supposed to do. And man, I wish I would have, I could have, would have, should have, is all the people that are experiencing regret. And at that top tier athletic level, the difference in the athletes it's just fractional. It's the same way as the entrepreneurial level. When you're competing against businesses for a same product, it's fractional, the difference. And so when we don't do the things we're supposed to be doing, it just shows up. And then we start enveloping this pain of regret. We get this woulda, coulda, shoulda attitude, and it's chronic pain. It lasts a long time.
They always say the pain of regret is worse than the pain of doing what you need to do to get the job done. And I love sports. I always wanted to be in the Olympics. I was a figure skater when I was a kid. I figure skated with Dorothy Hamill. She was only 8. My age is showing again, but that's okay. And I was brought up doing figure skating and ballet and dance. And nothing teaches the kids more about good ethics and workmanship and going over, under, around, or through than sports. I absolutely love sports. Both my daughters were in sports. One was in equestrian, the other one volleyball, and just everything. Anything to do with team sports or individual sports teaches kids and then adults so much it carries over. So tell us a little bit more about what your idea you share is, because we've heard, no pain, no gain. But give it to us a little bit deeper, because we cannot wait to see your TEDx as soon as it comes out on YouTube. And I'm going to put the website up one more time.
Yeah, I think that, I love the quote, winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win. And so, Aurea, if we don't, what's that?
Do that again. I like that.
Winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win. So we have a podcast called Winners Find a Way. And that's who I surround myself with, Aurea, is that these people who are actually solving solutions. And we learn to overcome that through our athletic experience as those kids. Uncomfortable for sure. You and I go into a hard workout and it's hard. And so we have some soreness. There's that pain of discipline. Like we have a little soreness, except in 2 days, the soreness is gone. And we're moving on and we feel better. We have the overload principle. And as a gymnast and a figure skater, you tried the exercise on the ice, and you go down on the ice, you go down on the ice, you go down on the ice, but then you start getting it and you don't fall and you catch yourself and you're like, hey, I did something really hard and then I couldn't do it, and then as I progressed, got stronger and I got better technique and I learned, whoa, I can do some really hard things. And you start seeing things as a 9 or 10-year-old girl and you're figure skating and go, wow, I'll never be able to do that. And then here you are at 13 going, I remember when I thought I'd never be able to do this. And now it's very easy for me. I could do this in every routine out there. And so we develop this habit and grit for overcoming challenges and doing hard things. And I think it's one of the major things that athletics provides, but we really have to embrace that discipline over regret. We really have to embrace that short-term pain.
And don't you agree? Because you're right, it's short-term pain when you're going through it and you're overcoming it. It's long-term pain if you give into it, say, this is too hard. Don't you feel that this overflows into anyone's life, whether you're trying to learn a new language or start a new job, or you're becoming a nurse or a doctor or a teacher, that it's always hard in the beginning. And your first day of any job or career, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I will never learn it all. I'll never get there. Look at these people. They've been here so long. They're so great. But before you know it, if you stick with it, you're that person that people are looking up to. Wow, look at them go. You got to stick with it and during that short-term pain. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I do. I think you're exactly on that. And I think it is industry agnostic. I even think it's down to relationships, right? Like we're going to go in and go, wow, I'm so committed to be in this friendship with Aurea, and we work at it and we have a great time. And then if one of us stops doing that, right, and we don't participate in that, it's like, oh, well, I really would love to have the relationship back with Aurea, but I didn't have the discipline to keep up and stay in contact and be a part of her life. And now I regret not having that in my life. And I feel a void in my life. And, the challenges that I see, Aurea, and you may really identify with this, is you've probably seen people that do really hard things to their bodies. They make really bad decisions that they're trying to drown out that pain of regret. And they do it through drugs and alcohol and sex and gaming. And they get these habits and go, I just want to run away from the pain, even if it's for a few hours, because this pain, I wish it were different. But the very habits of that and self-medicating and all these things that happen through that pain of regret, it builds a flywheel for more regret. And so it's going against the very things that we're trying to stop, which is get back to the discipline, eliminate that regret in your life by being, because the day to day, I always like to say, this day for that day. I love that. I got that from Ken Manny, a strength coach up at Michigan State and a mentor of mine. We all have that goal that one day you're going to win the state tournament for your figure skating. Well, that may be 3 years away, but you're training this day for that day. That day I get the college scholarship. That day I get married. The things I'm choosing this day, it may be 1,000 days away, but every day, what do you do this day to make that day happen? And I think if people don't understand the focus and the discipline on the daily that has far superior impact than the dreaming about what might happen, the action is where it's happening.
Yeah, it's one reason why I love to watch the Olympics, because now more so than decades ago, they're showing these stories and we're getting to see, they take the time for that B-roll to go and watch them fall up those parallel bars or all the reasons why they shouldn't be in that Olympic that you're watching. We get to see behind the scenes more so than we're watching other sports, which they would do more of that. They give us little snippets, but as being in the World Series, let me ask you this, because I wish we just even had more time with you. We'll have to have you back. Being in the World Series, being the best at what you do, taking your team to the highest pinnacle of success. Let me ask you this for those that may have fallen backwards and maybe they are now drowning their sorrows, thinking it's too late for me, or they're so down the rabbit hole of maybe self-medicating or just not being able to pick themselves back up. What is your best advice if you've ever had a player that just has lost their mojo? Maybe they had an injury and they're not coming back as fast as they're hoping. Maybe it's really painful and they just don't have it anymore in them, but there's still hope. What advice do you give them, and can you give all of us on something like that if they're thinking it's too late or I'm in too much pain?
Really, really quickly, surround yourself with great people who have an encouraging and supportive nature. I mean, I want to surround myself with winners, right? Who find a way to win and who don't show losing behaviors. And those 4 losing behaviors are really important. They make excuses, they start blaming, they quit, or they ignore the data, how they're losing. And so if you're showing those losing behaviors, stop them in their tracks and start taking action on the daily to change that. That's the second thing, right? Take action. The third thing is find an attitude of gratitude. Start journaling about things you're thankful for. We live in a great country, and it's amazing how much is offered us. I mean, we're blessed and born into a lottery of like winners, where literally 99% of the world of America is considered wealthy beyond measure of any other part of the world. So, we have to count our blessings here in this. And I think if you're getting really struggling down, those people around you will help build your plan and build a focus again. But I've often found that if I ever get too far down, I immediately look for somebody to help. It's very hard to feel bad about me and myself when I'm helping someone else. And I think that for someone, if you're getting to that position, get down to your soup kitchen. Look for someone who needs a hand, who needs to lift up, because I just have never said, wow, our self-talk is tough on us, Aurea. Like, we're harder on ourselves than everybody else, right? And I've never said like, man, Trent, you're just no good, as I delivered 100 meals to the soup kitchen. Like, it just doesn't equate. Your mind already can't navigate it. It'll say, hey, shut that off. I can't even believe it. So stop saying it. And we need some of that in our life. We need to shut that spigot off sometimes.
You can't even understand how I'm so glad you said that, because we all know you become like the people you hang around with most. We know we need to have those coaches, those mentors, those people around us to lift us up when we're down. It takes a village, I think, to raise people, but you took it to the next level. And I love you for this, because I love nonprofits and I'm a cancer and domestic violence thriver. I want to help as many nonprofits before I die as I can. And you just hit the nail on the head. You cannot feel bad about your problems and your situation when you're helping others. That does more for us, the ones that we're helping, than even does for them, because we get so much more back from doing that. So thank you for that. I hope everybody will take that and run with that, especially now that we're in the holidays. Go out, do for others. Go, if you want to feed the homeless, or if you want to go work at the shelter, or go down to your local, puppy pound, and they need you to even just play with puppies that have no home. Whatever your heart brings you to, go do for others. And I know we only have like 3 minutes left. In these last few minutes, tell us anything else you'd like for us to know in this realm of the pain exchange, that it's worth it today to feel the pain and do it anyway for the best life results.
Yeah, it's simple, nothing more than a perspective and an understanding of short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. Making a choice, and it is a choice. I love Rick Pitino's book, Success is a Choice, and we make choices all day long. As an entrepreneur, as an executive in a company, as a leader, I make over 50,000 decisions a day with a wife of 28 years and 5 children. This is decisions. I'm on heavy overload, and there's just not a way I'm going to make 50,000 of the right decisions every day. But positioning in order to have the right people that can help me make good decisions is so vital. But your success is measured in each little choice you make. And, I'm sure people are questioning my sweater choice today, whatever it is, right? Like, that's okay. But on the things that really matter, we really got to get those choices right.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to success and it says, you know what, I'm going to lose this weight, I want to do that. And you can do that at 1 pound a week, but it's going to be made in the little microcosms of the success choices of, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get up, I'm going to be at my friend's Aurea, I'm not going to do the cheesecake, I'm glad that she has it for everybody, but I'm just going to grab an apple, and I'm going to make little choices along the way. Little choices have major impact.
Trent, you couldn't have said it any better. I wish we had even more time. I want you to come back and really taught us more about the success. I'm so excited for your TEDx, the Pain Exchange. Tell us your podcast one more time.
Winners Find a Way.
Winners Find a Way. Find his podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts. And I hate to cut this off now, but we've got to go. Hard stop. Trent, thank you so much for being here. Y'all don't want to miss the TEDx. TEDxstgeorge.com is where you can find all of his information and all the amazing TEDx speakers here today on the show. This is Aurea McGarry signing off from Get Celebritized, where I hope you learn how to earn more, live a big, vivacious legacy life so you can give more to the causes and people that matter most to you. Thank you, Trent, so much. You were just a perfect guest.